Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this celebration on Ada Lovelace Day. We're really excited to bring you a really inspiring panel of women leaders from across different parts of the technology sector. This event is part of the Bristol Technology Festival. We're really delighted that it really represents what the festival is all about in terms of trying to support opening up the technology sector to people of all backgrounds, all genders, all walks of life. And all the events during the festival are put on for free and wouldn't be possible without the support of our community partners. So just a quick thank you to them. And for this event in particular, I'd really like to thank our sponsors, IO and Ridington. And just before we get started and hand over to our panel, I just wanted to hand over quickly to Jade Walker from Ridington, who is just going to say a couple of words.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. As Marty said, I'm Jade and I work at Ridington as a product owner within the technology development team. The Ridington is an independent investment consultancy, providing a full range of outcome-oriented advice, research and technology to the largest institutional investors and wealth managers in the UK, Europe and China. We've got 4 offices across these locations in London, Bristol, which is where I'm currently based, Germany and Hong Kong. And our purpose is to help make 100 million people financially secure for the benefit of people and planet, not just through our work with long-term investors, but through playing an active role in our communities with a particular focus on financial education for children. So I've been working at Ridington for 2.5 years, and in that time I've been responsible for developing our research management software, Ada. That is not a coincidence. Ada Lovelace was actually the inspiration behind the naming of our product suite. At Ridington, we love naming our products and services after people, including Frank Riddington. And when we wanted to name our technology business, we asked ourselves who would be a great person to name it after. And Ada, arguably being the first computer programmer, with the work she did with Babbage on his computational engine constituting the first algorithm. And as a business founded not just on technology, but complex risk and asset modeling, she felt like a really good fit. We've also been strong advocates of improving diversity in technology, and Ada gave us that great figurehead to do this under too. There are a number of ways we try to encourage women into tech roles within our firm. We spend a lot of time trying to make our interview process and CV selection more open to people from varied backgrounds and experiences, whilst also engaging with hiring partners who have more diverse talent pools. And make a conscious effort to involve women in the interview stage, and have received some great feedback from applicants who said it's nice to see women already doing the job that you're applying for when interviewing. We're also supportive of reskilling and often engage with our wider business, offering opportunities such as coding taster sessions, which have even been requested for by our clients. If you'd like to hear more about any of this, then please feel free to contact our people team. And finally, just a quick personal anecdote from me I'd like to share with you all. Prior to working at Ridington, I actually worked in the investment division of a wealth management firm. So this is my first role within technology. And to be honest, I never expected to be here. But when I joined the Ridington Bristol office, which only housed members of the technology team, I was pleasantly surprised to discover there were more women than men. And that completely challenged all of my preconceptions of the industry before I started working there. I thought that was incredible. And I work with some amazingly talented female developers and members of my own product team. So don't ever be put off by stereotypes and roles, and come and join us, fellow women in tech. Become the future role models, just like those on the panel that we're here to celebrate the achievements of and be inspired by today. Before I close, just a special thanks to Mike and the team at IO Academy for being our partner sponsor for today's event. I hope you will enjoy the following discussions, and happy Ada Lovelace Day. With that, I'll hand back to you, Marty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jade. So without further ado, I'm going to get out of the way and introduce our fantastic chair and host for the evening, Katy Riddington, who is a director at the National Composite Centre based here in Bristol.
I am absolutely delighted to be here today. I get the opportunity to meet 4 fantastic inspirational role models and to spend an hour quizzing you on why you're here and how you got here. So thank you very much. Yes, my name is Kate Riddington. I'm a director at the National Composite Centre in Bristol, based at the Science Park. The National Composite Centre is a world-leading state-of-the-art facility looking at composites technology in a variety of different sectors: aerospace, automotive, marine, and we look at trying to use our knowledge and expertise to really challenge and solve some of the world's most complex problems. We've been moving into the digital technology space over the last few years, and I think for somebody like myself who's been in advanced engineering for way too many years to mention, I am astounded at how technology is changing the way we approach engineering problems. Only today, I literally sat with a VR headset on and 2 controls in my hands, looking at the design for a composite wheelchair, and could actually see and feel how it would look in the 3D virtual world, to be able to say, well, actually, no, the design of that won't work. Let's remodel that. Let's move that leg back, that chair back, put the seat up, etc., etc. And you can do all of that before you even start to make something. So I am completely blown away by the ability to do things with the use of tech. And I can't wait to hear your experiences today. So thank you very much for joining us. I could try and do that very embarrassing thing of introducing all of you individually, but you are far better at doing that than I am. So individually, could I ask you to introduce yourself and in a few sentences explain your background and your business? So shall I start with you, Alejandra?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And a pleasure to be with all of you guys. And yeah, so my name is Alejandra Garzon. But you can know me or call me Alejandra because it's a mouthful. And I'm the founder and CEO of MeiXter, and is an inclusive and interactive one-to-one or peer-to-peer learning platform. It's all live, and it has gamification, social media aspects, and also an environmental aspect. And I'm also working on research and development of a luxury ornament tool, and it's to do with multisensory and also helping with affluent women with depression and anxiety, and looking to combine emerging technologies. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
That's myself.
That's amazing. Fantastic.
Yeah, my name is Gemmell. I do quite a few things. My day job is a data scientist for a startup called HiveMind, looking at getting good data sets. So if anyone's into machine learning and artificial intelligence, one of the issues is we don't have good data sets. So it's building software to help with that. I'm also finishing off a PhD at the University of Bristol, fingers crossed I'll finish this year, into how we can teach the general public about artificial intelligence and robotics. And finally, I run a startup called Taught by Humans. It's a social enterprise. It's similar but not the same as yours, in that we look at tech education for people who can't normally get it. So trying to make it more accessible, running events for people who can't normally come to them. I used to live in Tottenham in London, and we did a lot of events there for kids in the area who otherwise wouldn't get to go to them. At the minute, due to the pandemic, we're working on building an online platform to teach people how to get into data.
Wow, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jenny, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm Jenny, and founder and CEO of Technology. We're a femtech company which is developing a smart menstrual product. So we're trying to take something which is more of like a primitive consumer hygiene staple and turn it instead into more of a wearable health proposition to give people more insights about their health and well-being.
Wow, thank you. And finally, Joyann.
Wow. My name is Joanne Boyce. I'm the founder of Arima Company. We are a consultancy. We help businesses to create inclusive marketing content. We're currently building a platform called Include AI, which will identify bias in marketing content. I'm currently studying a data science. So on that data science master's, really interested into data bias, data sets, how we can possibly use bias data to produce products for the good and help marginalized communities. So a lot of my research focuses around that.
Wow, what a panel. Thank you very, very much. That's such a great introduction. So my first question, and I'm just going to throw it out there. When I came through, finished my degree and moved into sort of engineering organizations, inspirational role models were absolutely critical for me to be able to look to see where I wanted to go and who I wanted to aspire to. Can you tell me who inspired you to get into the different careers and paths that you've chosen? And I'm not going to go for one person specifically, so if you've got something, just throw it out there. Who inspired you? What got you onto this path?
In a weird way, not directly into data science and tech, but MeiXter, in the sense of I read her books when I was younger and she did everything. Like any job under the sun, MeiXter did it, but she's renowned for being a poet. So that kind of always made me look at any problem. It's like, oh, I can try that. If Maya could do all these things she did, I can try that and I can come back to whatever I want to do. Because my degree is in psychology. So I was like, everything involves people is my is my cop out. It's like, it's still in my degree area. So I'll fall back on that. So that's my kind of role model to try anything and then led me down the tech path as well.
Okay, wow, that's a brilliant answer.
Well, I'll feed up from that because MeiXter is, for me, it's been amazing. She does from being a poet to being a singer to the way she speaks and the things that she says just kind of makes you think a lot. So definitely can relate to that. And for me as well, I think it's moments as well. That's what happened. For me, I was going to do purely just mechanical engineering. That's what I wanted to do. And it was a moment when I was doing it was in school actually, I was doing my international baccalaureate and I had to rush my arts. I had an art piece that I had to do and I spent my whole Christmas doing the art piece and I realized I cannot live without art. So my degree is industrial design, which is the merging of arts and science. And that for me was an important, and if I was to name someone, would be Rowena Costello, someone I studied in university, where she looks at the whole process where creation comes from doing, but also observing, taking a step back and observing. So yeah, that's
I probably don't really have a role model that got me into tech because I fell into tech. So I wanted to be an accountant. Yeah. I grew up in the countryside in Northern Ireland and big four companies. So big companies are quite popular in Belfast. And that was kind of what I saw as my career path. I saw it as my way out of the little town I grew up in was to go and be an accountant for a big four company.
So do you think that was because that was all the options that were given to you and you weren't necessarily shown these are all the wonderful different career paths that you could have? It's this accountancy.
Yeah, and some two guys in suits came to my high school and spoke to us about it, and I'd never known anyone that wore a suit. This sounds really random. I'd never known anyone that had to wear a suit to work, and I was like, that's so cool. Which, as you can see, this is how I dress for work now, so I've clearly grown out of that. That was what I wanted. I went to uni and did mathematics because I wanted to be an accountant, and I actually ended up working for PwC, which is one of the big four firms, but I accidentally interviewed for a tech role. Thought it was an accountancy role. In the interview, they were like, this isn't an accountancy role, this is a data analyst role. And I was like, no, what's that? So I still got the job. But I was going to say, probably one of my role models since I've been in tech is Dr. Sue Black. So she works at Durham University now, but she's got this really great story where she didn't even finish her A-levels and she went to university really late when she was a single mother with all these kids. And now she's done this amazing PhD and does all this amazing stuff. And she has bright pink hair, which I also really like. I just think she's really cool. I teach a lot of girls and teenage girls about technology, and she's always someone I mention because I just think it's a really cool story.
Yeah. Gosh, that's brilliant. Thank you.
I mean, there are so many people, but it's probably the entrepreneur I worked with for the first 5 years of my career was somebody who saw any problem and thought, I have it within me to solve it. And he'd started so many businesses in property or e-commerce and fashion, and there was nothing that was out of reach. And that mindset really does just seep into you over 5 years. And suddenly you're a person who thinks, there's a problem and I can solve it because anybody can solve it. And so you just, it really is empowering at that point.
Yeah. And that will stay with you as well to get that kind of influence so early on.
Yeah.
It really motivates you. Wow, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. So thinking about your businesses then, you've definitely had a pivotal moment where you've gone from following, the career choices and the academic learning that you've done to then move into setting up your own businesses at a really early point in your careers. What caused that? Because that's a massive step. It's something that's really courageous, in my opinion, to do that. So what triggered you to think, I'm going to set up my own company now? because I'm going to take notes and do this.
Again, I think this is kind of, someone told me this was the story of my life. I fell into it, and I just fall into things and then see them through quite often. And fell into a PhD also, as you do. I just applied on a whim and got into this PhD program, and I was really bored while doing the PhD. I just didn't find it useful. Sorry if my supervisors are listening, I'm still on.
Edit that out, I'm sure.
It's fine. Really, like, it wasn't fulfilling me. I was also working part-time for a company, and on the side I was occasionally just running sessions for people, teaching them coding. So I worked with a bunch of big companies in London, like KPMG and WorldPay, and ran their like work experiences for teenage girls. And then some of my friends were like, you know, you should be charging people for this. And I was like, no, it's fine. I just go in for a week and run 5 days worth of content for free. It's completely fine. And they were like, no, Laura, like, ask them for money and see what they say. So I was like, okay, fine. So I asked them for money. They were like, okay. And I was like, okay, you pick a figure. And I was quite surprised at what they came out with. And I was like, okay, I'm glad I didn't go first, because I would have said much lower.
Isn't there a lesson there in that? Gosh, yeah.
And then I was also doing a lot of volunteering in the same sort of sector, and I went to lots of events and was like, oh, actually, I think I could do this better, which isn't something I say very often. So then I was like, cool, I'm just going to do this. And then, yeah, I came up with the name Taught by Humans, and everything's kind of just going from there. So yeah, again, I just fall into stuff. That's what I do.
Oh, I think you overplay that. I think falling into things is very different. I think, yeah, you've got the bravery to just go and try. It's, yeah, fantastic. What about you, Joanne?
Not necessarily fallen into it, kind of. So I graduated university, went traveling, came back, and I was like, yes, okay, I'm going to be an adult now. This is what do adults do? They make money. What jobs make money? Recruitment. Hated it. And then I was like, okay, I really liked LinkedIn, which is a part of recruitment that you have to use every single day. And I was like, how is no one else using this? How are charities not using this to reach out? So I started helping people while doing my recruitment job. And then once I left recruitment, I was like, okay, I'm going to get into marketing, but couldn't get an internship, couldn't get a junior role, any of those areas, because they're just like, oh, you haven't got experience. But I fell into that trap that a lot of young people fall into, where you need experience to get experience. And it's like, this doesn't work. But then I was lucky to find the Princess Trust, and they were like, why don't you start a business? I always crack up because they made us write a 20-page business plan. To this day, I have not touched it. I think in the business plan, I said something like, I'm going to franchise like KFC, but in a marketing area, and I'm going to do all these things, and never happened. But what really helped was that they helped me get my first proper laptop. I sat down with lawyers, which was the first time I saw people in suits, and they were charging a lot for a conversation. So I just sat there and I'm like, yes, I will do whatever you tell me to do. And they said, set up a limited company. Didn't really know what it meant. Set it up, and then tax came, and I was like, okay, I have a business. I need to sort this out. But since then, I've kind of just seen problems and wanted to fix it. So I saw a problem with stock photos, made a stock photo pack that had diverse representation, saw a problem with people not representing others. I was like, how can we make this simple? And now I see a problem with AI, and I'm like, this seems really solvable. Like, this seems really, really solvable, but no one's doing it. Why? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna study a master's and fix it. Bigger problem, but yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, I love it. Very inspiring. Oh, I don't know who wants to go next.
I don't really know what persuaded me to do it, but I think I had this idea of what products should look like for women. And when I looked at menstrual products on the market, I thought women will not be using these in 20 years. And then when I had an idea of what they could be using, and this vision was so alluring, and I thought, I can't not go after this the next day, or like do a feasibility study the next week, or do a business plan the month after that. And it just sort of snowballed, and there was no day where I thought, this is happening. It just kept happening until I started taking down days a week at my day job, and then I stopped working at my day job.
Wow. Oh, I'm getting lots of ideas. This is brilliant, brilliant. And finally, lots of things I want to come back to. But yes.
Yeah, I think my business happened to me. That's how I would describe it. So for me, this came as a solution for a need, like you mentioned. It's I used to be a football player, and I was doing my degree for industrial design, and I ended up things happen. I ended up having some medical issues and I ended up paralyzed. And it was out of a sudden, it was just the whole left side of my body was completely paralyzed. I couldn't feel it, I couldn't move it or anything. And I also had back issues from before. So for me, it was kind of saying, and because of everything that was happening, the doctor said, we don't really have a solution for you. And if we try to do something, it might cause more harm. You're so young. What if we do something and it makes it worse, right? So with that in mind, I had to seek other sort of therapies. And they said, well, go and do some trial and error. But what happens is trial and error costs a lot of money. So, and I didn't have the finances to do that. So I kind of looked at what do I actually have at that point, and I had my skills. I had my language skills, so I speak Spanish and I like other languages as well, originally from Colombia. And I also had art skills and other skills that I learned in school. And so what I did was I approached these therapists and I said, how can I help you? Where do you need help? And I will pay you for those therapies with my skills. And that's how I recovered. And when I went back to university, so I had to stop my university, that was before my final year of university. When I went back to university, I split my final year in two, and I had some more time. And I said, well, when I graduate, I have 3D skills, 3D design, I have some engineering skills and other ones, but I really want to know how to do things and show them in the best way. So I need graphic design skills. And I had a friend who did graphic design, and I approached him and was like, well, I'm going to try the same concept. I will teach you 3D, and can you teach me 2D design? And he was like, no. It's like, well, great. So, but he then told me, he was like, I know you know Spanish. Can you teach me Spanish? It's like, okay, wait a second. So sometimes we think we have to kind of be inside the same kind of realm or field. And sometimes if you kind of ask outside, you might find other options and other solutions. So with that, I started looking at who else needed that and doing my sort of like indirect focus group, asking people around the university. And I saw that there was a lot of need and so much potential of those people that wanted to grow, but also that had so much to give. So that's where I looked for platforms that enabled that sort of interaction and to also help people to have an income. And I couldn't find something that had those elements, so I decided to create it. And then I also wanted, because we have the digital world that also kind of gets you very immersed into the online and my creating disconnection with the outside. So I said, well, let's add something that's very, that really creates an impact in the outside world, in the real world. And that's why we've added the environmental course. So every time you have a lesson through the platform, you're actually helping with planting trees and getting jobs and helping education in these communities, so you can impact that community in the digital world, but also in the real world. So that's so it just kind of happened to me, really. Sorry, that's very long.
You all keep saying it's just happened to me from here, sitting listening to you. You've all just come, you've found a problem, you've seen it, and you haven't gone to others to overcome it. You've decided to take it, grab it, own it, and fix it. And that's an incredibly inspirational message. So don't keep saying you fell into it, because you didn't. You've done an amazing job, all four of you. Very impressed. So I've got one thing. One of the things that I really enjoy in my job is the network and the connections and the collaborations. Do you think that working collaboratively or working within a network has helped you along this journey? And if so, what were those networks and collaborations that may have supported you?
Yeah, I would say so, but I don't think networks always look like the traditional definition.
No,
so a lot of people, when they're giving you advice on how to expand your network, will say, go to some meetups, find some clubs, find some groups that have things in common with you.
Mine was always going to play golf.
But I think a network just takes one person, just finding that just one who is in the sector that you're in or has the skill that you need. And finding one person to connect with will open the door to one more person. And it's so much more approachable than trying to insert yourself into like a new social hierarchy and something you haven't experienced before.
I still do find it quite intimidating walking into a room with a whole load of people who are expected to network. Where do I start with that? It's not a natural thing to do. So I agree with you that one-to-one, and then all of a sudden you look back and think, well, actually, I've just made 50 connections here, and all of them can help in different ways. Anybody else wants to expand on that?
I think also networking is, there's a lot we get taught about it on TV, that is, you know, shaking hands, swapping business cards. But I remember going back to what you said, that one-to-one, when I first started my business, I just typed in the job title and connected with people on LinkedIn and asked them, how did you do this? Asked a bunch of people, and then 5 people came back with actual like helpful answers. And that's how I got my first accounting software, all the things that would have been a learning curve. And then I'm someone who likes to dive in deep end. So I took a month where I went to every networking event possible in Bristol. For 1 month, my dinner was wine and pizza every night. But what I realized is that everyone has their own kind of nervousness about it, and people network in different ways. I remember I was at an event and I was speaking to this guy about Marvel movies for like an hour. Didn't talk to anyone else in the event. Probably the worst.
Remember the conversation.
And he runs one of the biggest companies in Bristol. Didn't even realize until I saw him at another event. I was like, oh,
it's the Marvel man.
Do stuff. You're like, but it was kind of reminded me like people are just people. And sometimes we forget, we get caught up in, hi, what do you do? What's your business? Da, 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 and then trying to introduce or sell or really intimidated by that. But at the end of the day, you can chat to someone at Marvel and never forget.
Exactly. I think the interesting thing that you say there as well is putting the question out there and asking, having that genuine openness, can you help me with this? Because people really love to help. And I think we forget just actually there's so many people around that could just help you put it out there. So anyway, to you two.
Well, I think for me, with what you mentioned with Marvel, it's what I found sometimes was actually just approaching people from something that you find interesting, like a particularity of them that you're like, oh, even something, they might not be in your field, but they said something that really resonated with you, and you approach them and you said, that was really interesting. How did you get to that point? Or what was your process to get to that point? Or they said something from a life experience, and you're like, I want to understand more about your life experience, because it might not be exactly in my field, but it could be translatable. So I think how I've networked as well is finding things that I find interesting about those people and just talking to them, just like people, not expecting anything back, but actually trying to see, okay, how can I learn from you, but also give something back. I think but that was Marvel. I'm not gonna forget that you met someone that talks to you.
And there's a lot to speak about when it comes to Marvel movies. I'm saying, I'm not gonna fully nerd out, but yeah.
Okay, Laura.
I was just gonna say I hate networking. I hate going to events and walking up to people. I'm not mad on small talk. Someone walks up to me, I'm happy to talk to them. I find most of my networking comes from people I already know. So I've had quite a lot of jobs, which means my network myself is quite large, and they all know a bunch of people. So it's like you said, it's the people who know someone else. So I'm quite big on posting on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I nearly always get what I want. That sounds very bratty. I don't mean it like that. I mean, like I posted, like you said, same with the accountancy stuff. I posted about, does anyone know an accountant that can do this? Got that back. That's how I get most of the stuff that I get, is just posting on social networks, and then someone I know messages me back saying, oh, my brother's sister's cousin does this, and you're like, awesome, can you introduce me please? So that's more how I network. And one thing I would say is there are groups of people. I think if you find your people that you like, where you fit in, that's really important. So years and years ago, I took a course with Code First Girls to learn how to code. So they do free courses for women to get into technology, and that's probably how I became quite as confident as I am now. Back in the day, I used to be really shy and quiet, and my knees used to shake when I had to do presentations. So through Code First Girls, I met loads of amazing people, some who I still consider my best friends, and also I got to teach people coding. So that's probably what kind of sparked this whole thing off. It was this great, amazing community of all these like inspiring women and men who were keen to get women into tech. And yeah, it's just a great community. And it was the first time I think I ever met people that kind of felt the same way I did, got excited about coding and liked problem solving. And that was a really big deal for me. So I think maybe finding your network and whatever it is for you, where you fit in, is really important. And you'll not fit in loads of places, and that's okay, but find the one where you do fit in, and that'll help you grow.
And I think just to piggyback off what you said in regards to social media gets a bad rap, but there are really good networks, and a lot of the generations coming up now, that is where the networks are. And I think sometimes I'm always astounded when I look at my little cousin and my goddaughter, how they're like, oh, my friend's starting a business selling candy, and then I'm going to do this, and then we're going to share it on Instagram. I'm like, what? Teach me what you did, like, because it's just so innate to them to network and socialize on these platforms. And I think as like adults, we have to encourage them to see that this is a form of things that they can transfer into IRL.
Yeah, and I would say with that as well, since we have these platforms, at first, for me, it was like, should I ask for help? Should I not? Should I approach people? But then afterwards, you see that people really want to help you, like you've mentioned. So just asking, just kind of throwing yourself out there is like, I kind of need help here. Sometimes that person doesn't know how to help, but they'll connect you to people. So yeah, definitely.
I'm going to take that away myself because I'm always nervous to ask for help. You think you've got to sort something out, but no. Yeah, fantastic. Another thing to notch up. So I'm going to change the focus a little bit. We've got quite a few people linking in tonight who are at primary school or who are at secondary school. And I want to sort of go back into the mist of time and think, what did you take away? What was the key thing, the lesson that you learned when you were going through that phase in your life?
Sorry, I relived it recently. So if you're the person that always does all the working group projects,
okay,
that means you'll be a good entrepreneur.
Oh, excellent.
just recently relived that yeah, I'm not going to talk about it, but yes, that's one thing that always used to frustrate me in secondary school and primary school, because I felt like I was the only one taking stuff serious, and I felt like I was the only one doing all the work, and then I'd get really annoyed by it. But then there'll be a point where we get to the assignment, everyone will turn to me for answers, and I'll be like, look at you all now.
I know this, I've got this.
I tried to help you do the thing, but you didn't want to do it. But now I realize that that's kind of what happens when you run a business. People are asking you questions all the time. You're having to make decisions. You're having to lead on ideas where people don't always see the bigger picture. And I realized younger me was like, guys, we have a deadline, we have to do a thing. I'm seeing the big picture. They're like, no, we have like 20 days. Why are you stressing? So if you are that young person and you are in school and you're always doing the assignments, the projects, don't do everyone's work. I'm not saying that, but it means that there's skills there that you can transfer when you run a business.
Don't see it as a negative thing, just soak up the experience and go with it.
It's
It'll
still
stand you in really good stead.
frustrating as
Yeah.
anything in the world.
Yeah, I wasn't one of the people at the front. I was going, yeah, 20 days. Jenny, what about your experiences?
I really didn't enjoy school. I found it difficult to engage, and I didn't enjoy any subject. There was no career I wanted to go on to. And I think the options that are put in front of you, particularly as a woman in younger education, don't usually include tech and new innovation. There was never a teacher who said that you could do something which isn't on this careers list. And so the thing that I would probably want to take back in time to myself is that there are so many options that aren't on that list, and all of the creativity is not just artistic creativity, it's anything in your imagination is probably a possibility at some point in the future, and you're not bound in age 11 or 18.
So that's such good advice. Such good advice, and something's got to change, isn't it? Those career choices, those ideas, those avenues, we've just got to lift the lid. Just what's available. Yeah, brilliant.
That's great advice. I wish I could have told my younger self that. My advice, I also hated school, absolutely hated school. I don't know if I should say this, but I very rarely went to school. I really didn't enjoy school. I did well in exams, and that was good enough for me. I turned up to my exams and that was it. I, like we said, didn't engage, didn't like it, was always bored. I would give advice would be to lean into what you find easy and what you're good at. And I don't mean that in like a lazy way. I mean it I'll give an example. For my GCSEs, my favorite subjects were history and English literature. And I realized that I spent more than half of my time revising for all 11 subjects, revising for these 2 subjects. And they were my worst 2 subjects, no matter what I did, no matter how much I worked. And I was going to do them for A level. And then I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do them. It's too much effort. Like the exams are stressful. So I switched to doing math and science. And my A levels were a breeze. Like it's a horrible thing to say. I remember all my friends being terribly stressed and me being like, like whatever, like I know I'm going to get all A's in these subjects, like I'm totally fine, which is like, I imagine I was so annoying also. But I found math and science easy. I didn't really revise for it. I could remember it. This year, I actually got diagnosed with quite severe dyslexia, which actually going back to it probably is why, even though I loved history and English, I couldn't do well in the exams. So those are my favorite subjects, probably still. I still love history, I love reading, but it's never going to be my career because it's something I'll always be fighting an uphill battle against. Whereas I actually am effortlessly really good at math. And no one mentioned this until I was 17. I just thought everyone was that good at math. So yeah, I just thought everyone found it that easy. And then my A-level teacher was like, you know, you're really good at this, you should do this at uni. And I was like, okay, sold. I'd never given uni any thought before in my life. And I was like, cool, I'm going to do math. That seems like a great idea. So actually leaning into the bits of things that you're good at is actually really helpful. And I found that throughout my whole career. So I'm really good at organizing stuff, love a good list, love a good spreadsheet, love color coded stuff. And for quite a lot of my career, I took that as, I don't know why, but that it was a girly thing for me to be good at that. Yeah, because I worked in teams full of men and like they never told me it was girly. I was just good at it, so I did it. I naturally was the one who was like, who's gonna color code this thing, when they were just like, it was annoying me that it wasn't color coded. Not that they made me do it, so this is totally coming from me. And I realized actually like leaning into that, now I've got some really cool stuff. I can work like running a business. That's a great skill for running a business, being able to color code things and know what you're doing. So yeah, I think leaning into what you're good at is what advice I would give anyone.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can relate to that. But it's the way that you actually take on board information. So actually seeing the colours and the lists and the organisation, that's just the way that your brain works. It's not about however, you know,
Yeah,
it's just, that's just a way. It's brilliant. Great advice.
yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, well, that now that you mentioned with like colors and all of that, for me, I'm very visual. I'm a very visual person. So I really liked school. I really liked it, but I was that annoying student, sorry, that was always asking questions, but that had nothing to do with the curriculum was saying. So we're doing history and we're doing World War II or something, and then I was like, Miss, so what happened in Japan? She said, what are you talking about? Or like, what happened, I don't know, in South Korea? No, this is not what we're talking about. Like, but how can we link it? So these sort of questions, because I was always wanting to kind of know what outside, okay, you're teaching me all these different things, but what can I actually kind of try to think for myself, right? Maybe it has nothing to do with it. And I'm not saying that you have to like go on and try to find things that don't make sense. But if you want to do that, that's where things start really. But for me, that was something that I saw my teachers got really frustrated with me about, that it was. And sometimes I was in physics class, and this is why I loved the physics teacher. He used to take us out and do all these physics experiments outside it was all very didactic, very playful. Yeah. And you have, okay, to look at waves, he used to, there was a cylinder that he would put, and you knew that was going to be a fun class, because in the cylinder, it had holes, and he was playing with fire, and you could see the waves, and he'd teach you with all these different things. And I always loved that class because of how it was. And with that, I always try to kind of see, okay, how can I do that in other classes that it can be fun and you can ask questions of how to, and I would say for me and for those who are here today, is if you think that you have a suggestion on how to make things more helpful for you to learn, approach your teacher and ask them like, oh, can we try this? It might be different, but let's give it a try. I think that would always be something that can help you, but also can help other people who might not be approaching the teacher to ask those questions. And I guess the other thing is also, I like school outside of school. I like those extracurriculars, that those service moments where sometimes we would go to care homes and do plays, or and that really teaches you to give back, but not only to give back, but you learn so much. I was the little kid sitting with the care home people, just like talking to them and hearing their stories. And then, and also sports, that was really good for teamwork, but also for joining things. So for my final year of IB, I did physics actually in IB, and for that, I had to do an extended essay. I was like, I'm just going to do something really random. And as a football player, I was like, I'm going to do physics and football. And that was different. And that was something that I wanted to do. And everyone was kind of doing their experiments inside. I was like, well, I'm going to go do my experiment. I was in the field and just kicking the ball and doing all these things. So that was my experience in school.
Brilliant.
But yeah,
that's really, those answers are fantastic. Now I could sit here and continue to ask you lots of questions that are just from me, but we have actually got a whole group of people out there that are posting questions as well. So I'm going to switch now. So these are questions that you, just coming unfiltered from the group. And there's a couple of brilliant ones here straight away. So I'm just going to throw it out there. So this is from Nicole, who is a product manager for Envelope Risk. And she says, do you feel like being young women in the tech industries have brought you certain struggles?
Yeah, I'll start with that. I feel like it took a really long time for people to take me seriously. So I look a lot younger than I am, actually. I'm constantly, I still get ID'd. I just turned 30 and I still get ID'd regularly. And I used to have like platinum blonde hair and like wear loads of eye makeup and rock up to work like that. And I feel like being a girly girl in tech, depending on the company you work in as well, also kind of counts against you and creates some struggles. So I had options where I could either change that about myself or lean into it. I've just leaned into it. I think the difficult thing when you're a young woman in tech is you have so many good ideas, and if you're smart and you've loads of ideas, it's hard to get people who see things like, the most dangerous phrase in the English language is, this is how we've always done this. It's quite hard to get people to take you seriously. And you have to just kind of learn how to play the game. And it's a terrible thing to say, but it's a game, right? You need to learn how to get people to take you seriously. You need to learn when to speak up. I got some great advice from a manager once, which was, if you just keep pointing out things that are wrong, it sounds like you're complaining. No, he was like, bring me solutions, come back to me with a solution to one of your complaints. And I was like, okay, cool. Since then, that's great. You don't just say, oh, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. You bring all the stuff with it, and it's a great way to think about it. And another way I think to get taken more seriously is a terrible way to say it, is to get a mentor, particularly if you work at a company. Maybe someone like a more senior woman at the company, they can help you navigate all companies have politics, right? They can help you navigate the company's particular politics. In terms of starting a business, I've actually found that way more accepting, I think is the word, of younger people, because, well, in entrepreneurship, we're a bit obsessed with like young people getting money and raising money. Really, actually, probably some of us are quite old in terms of entrepreneurs, because that's what we're actually, we talk about 16-year-olds and 18-year-olds who just raised millions of pounds. I find that a lot nicer than traditional tech companies. I think that would be my advice.
That's a great answer. Jenny, I'm going to come to you next. Do you want to add anything to that question? Do you feel that it's brought you certain struggles?
I think that it's always hard when you're in a minority on something, and young women in tech are in the minority, and you've got to work with people who think differently to you and are probably more established, and they will have usually more power in a situation than you will, because you're in the minority. And that is a struggle. That's a struggle in many sectors, and trying to work out how to navigate that is just a constant challenge. And that is really difficult. There's no two ways about it.
I think pulling on that network again to work out how to deal with certain situations is really helpful as well. Thank you. Joyann?
I always find that particular question a little bit difficult, because I can't decide whether it's because I'm a young woman or because I'm Black. I walk in situations, and something I've kind of had to get used to is the assumption in that when I walk into a room, people don't think I'm the expert. And there's always a surprise. And I've got, it's really bad, I've got automated response now, where they're just like, oh wow, you do, so it's your business? And I'm like, yes, I did it. And it's a script. But in terms of dividing the two, I can't say there's particular situations where I can say it's one or the other. Because unfortunately the tech sector is not very diverse for women, for people of color. But one thing I know my background, whatever room I walk into, is always going to have some idea or some solution that no one in the room's thought about. And it goes back to with data science, where I look at it and I'm just like, this is so obvious. Why are you not getting it? And then I look at the room and I'm like, that's why. You have the same lived experience. That's why you're not getting it. So never know which is which, but I would say just know that whatever background you come from, you have some form of knowledge, some form of experience, some form of idea that no one in that room has thought about.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say something, and then I was like, well, that's something different. Oh yeah, that, and then that. So there's moments that I have seen, but one particular one, I was gonna talk about a different one, but when you mentioned on how people kind of react to when you say what you do, it reminded me of a specific comment I read on Instagram. And I had a post about the business and kind of presented this like, hi, my name is Alejandra, and this is MeiXter. And I commented, was like, so how much did you pay for this idea? And are you just a face, that sort of thing? And I was like, you have, at those moments, you also have to be quite, don't let it get to you, right? Because it's very easy to allow it to get to you and just kind of come back and say, no, I know I've done so much work. I've put this so much time and I know where it comes from, and reply very politely. And in that moment, it dawned to me, because sometimes when I'm in those situations in person, they won't say it to you, right? But then in social media, you can read it because it's just a random person. And I read that and I was thinking, it makes you for a second doubt yourself. You're like, no, and it was a very specific thing that said, and I remembered, as I've already mentioned, where it comes from. I know the amount of time that it's taken me to look at every single screen of that app, change the tiniest thing and just change it again. And then you're talking to the development team and they're like, there's so many implications behind that. I'm like, yes, we know this. Let's try to figure out how do we go around it? What integration do we do? It's not just like a little simple thing sometimes with tech. And that whole process, I know how much time I've spent doing it. And reading that comment really bothered me. And not because I thought what he said was true, but because I thought, well, I haven't heard it in person, but is this what people think? Just because, and it said, are you just a face? I'm like, no, I'm not just a face. This is something that came from me. Why is it so difficult to believe that? So yes, I have definitely seen that. Not so much in my face, but I noticed it in social media. And I guess as a solution for that sometimes is go back to yourself and see the progress that you've done. Everyone has a journey, and that journey has taught you so many things. Go back and look at what it's taught you, the people around that journey. So I started going back to everyone that I was able to talk to. And even when I talk to them again, I kind of approach them differently. I was like, thank you for everything that you've taught me. So it was a whole moment just from that comment, but definitely, yeah.
Really good. Okay, I'm going to go quick fire because there's lots of questions now. Otherwise,
yeah,
I'd really like to. Right, quickly. So, do you have any advice for post-18 directions when someone is unsure of what you want to do and don't want to commit to one field? For example, STEAM-related routes, uni courses. So, quick fire. What advice would you give post-related 18 directions? What sort of options have you got that isn't going to commit you to one path?
Long story short, no matter what degree you do, you don't have to stick with it. So do something, and people don't ask.
I think coming back to what you said, doing something that you love, because you can pivot, you can change.
And apprenticeships are a great option. If you don't want to do a degree, you get paid while you're doing it, you get to learn, you get to meet people, you get your network out there. I think that's a good idea, rather than committing to a 4-year or 3-year degree.
Yeah.
If you don't want
do something that you love, you don't have to follow that one thing. Looking at apprenticeships, anything else?
I would say sometimes you know what's out there, but the normal things, engineering, this and that. But sometimes you can say, I like this, this and that. Is there something that has those elements? And sometimes just researching, you pop up with this degree that you had no idea existed, because there's these new degrees coming up with that kind of combination. So just go deeper and look further into what's online, really.
Yeah.
I would say the broadest subject
I
possible.
agree with that. Yeah,
Keep your options open. I picked law
math. Yeah.
because you can do anything after that degree, and English was the second choice because you can do anything after that degree, which is something which is going to give you as many options as possible.
Brilliant. That's exactly that reason. Okay, right. We could dive into this one a lot, but really quickly, what has been your biggest achievement so far? Big intake of breath, and I'm going to go, Jenny.
Building a team of people better than I am at what they do.
Oh, what a lovely answer.
It's the best feeling in the world.
But
It's
isn't
a
that
huge
just-
achievement.
Just perfect in building a team. You want to build a team of people around you who bring you skills, who you feel, oh, lovely answer. Brilliant. Who's next? I've given you all a bit of time.
Super small one. Things happening in the business without me. It's probably this.
Yeah.
It's a problem, but it's a moment of like, oh, I can ship. Well, I can't, but still.
But that it flies without me.
It works. It's going. Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to combine both of those. I hired an intern this summer who does my social media. She's now a permanent member of staff. Hi, Alice, if you're watching. And yeah, she posts on social media when I'm on holiday, and I'm like, oh, this is my company. It's being spoke about without me. This is wonderful.
Think biggest achievement would be, I think for me, it's, yes, it has to do with my company, but it has to do also, I've just graduated from university from industrial design. And for me, someone said to me, oh, do you want to go to the graduation? Does it really matter? And like, for me, it's like, I do, because it marks the before and after. And it took me like 2-3 years more than it actually takes. So for me, the achievement wasn't just the graduating, but everything that happened together and all the people that actually supported me, because I wouldn't be here without them. So for me, that achievement wasn't just my achievement. It was a community achievement, and my parents, my close friends. So never underestimate the value that close people. Yeah, sorry.
I've got one question. There's lots of questions, and I don't know whether there's an opportunity to write responses after this event, because they're really good questions. But there's one that really resonates with me, and I think we've been guilty of not looking at this avenue, which is, what are your thoughts on a young woman in tech who wants to get into tech but doesn't want to do a degree? You know, because we've talked a lot about higher education here, but there are other routes. And what would your advice be?
I was going to say YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
What do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah. It's funny. My master's teacher literally said, "Why did you guys pay for this course? We studied it online."
Oh, okay.
Which is hilarious, but also, but everything in tech, I feel, bar the physical product stuff, you can learn online and get started a lot sooner. If I knew this is where I was going to be, like hindsight, I would have started learning Python on the side while I was doing my stuff. There's free courses. There's a free, anything you can think of. There's something on YouTube to learn. And if you're not of age, get your parents to sign up and they can do the course with you and learn alongside you. So yeah, you don't have to go to, there's tons of people that work at like Google and Facebook that don't have degrees.
That's good. Any other advice?
I was going to say, so my PhD research is really related to this, and even though we preach not having a degree, there is a caveat that you do need to have some experience. So I would probably go the getting, like, you can learn the skills online, that's great. Finding someone who can give you some form of experience, whether it's just a little project on, there's a website called Kaggle, where you can do like data science projects. So you just download the stuff and people are really friendly and they'll talk you through it, but having something tangible that you can put on rather than like, because yeah, you can say that you watch courses. Some people don't think Coursera courses are good. So if you have a project, just build something yourself that you can show someone, get an internship, don't work for free, but get an internship and go and learn some stuff, find some nice people that will take you on, even if it's just work shadowing or something, stuff you can actually put on your CV to get you in the door. And it is who you know. Add us on LinkedIn. We can chat to you about it if you want to know anything. Like, more happy to chat.
Okay, brilliant. I'm going to come to the final killer question. I'm going to start with you. So this is the last question because we need to hand back. But where do you want your business to be in 5 years?
Well, I want it to be global, and I want it to be supporting many courses. At the moment, it's reforestation, but I want it to actually look at, yes, we're in the digital world, but I want to help children's education as well in in the physical world. And I would also say, as personal, I want to be able to be like yourself, be able to have the business running and be able to help more in the vision aspect in where else can we take it technologically and in other advances.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, I think mine is probably being able to step back from the day-to-day a bit more. So at the minute, I'm building the tech, I'm building the products, I'm the one going out and doing all the teaching. So I'd quite like to have a team of people underneath me who all are very well paid and have really flexible jobs that they can fit around their wonderful lives. Of course, that's my vision. I don't really want a multinational company. I just want a company that makes me and people that work for happy and teaches lots of people to cope.
Fantastic, thank you. Jenny.
I think I would like women's health to be back in women's hands. So like in 10 years, the last gynecologist will have resigned and a woman will be managing her own health.
Fantastic, I love that.
So I have two, myself and the business. I'm passionate about teaching and data science and bias and all of that. So I want to be shaking things up. I want to be going to conferences and telling people that, you know, they need to rebuild their whole model or their algorithms all messed up. Separately, I want to include the software to be the tool that every marketer uses. In order to do that, I'm going to need to raise investment. So I'd like that to be a multi-million-pound company while I keep my small fun stuff here. How's that? I want Google and I want my own thing.
Perfect. Absolutely smashing. I'm afraid we're out of time when I need to hand back, but I just want to say thank you. I have had the most wonderful hour listening to you and asking you questions. So yes, thank you very much. And your answers were absolutely superb. So at this point, I will hand back to Paul Forster. And yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey everybody, that was a really great conversation. Thank you everybody, to the panel and to the chair for that. I just wanted to quickly say a couple of words to thank the sponsors today. So cheers very much to Riddington and to IO Academy for sponsoring. And also I wanted to quickly plug something that SETsquared are doing at the moment. So we have our breakthrough bursary, which has launched last month and it closes at the start of next month. It's an opportunity for people from non-white backgrounds, Black, Asian, minority, ethnic founders to access SETsquared support for a fraction of the usual membership cost. So if you are a technology founder with a startup idea and you're interested in moving that forwards, give me a shout or get in touch with one of the team. Other than that, really pleased to have had another Ada Lovelace Day via Engine Shed and SETsquared. It's always exciting. I like to think that one of the reasons why Ada Lovelace became a programmer is because she was revolting against the patriarch, which was her family, which was Byron. So, you know, take that in hand, that being a programmer can be about smashing the patriarchy. And on that, I will say goodbye. Thank you.